Parak Dal, the fourth chapter, the final chapter of the book of Ruth. We're told in the last chapter, Naomi said to Ruth, this is a man who gets things done. If he said to you he's going to take care of this, he's going to take care of this. And so after sneaking out in the morning back to her home with the six sheaves or so of barley to give to her mother-in-law, Boaz gets up that morning. Boaz Allah hasha'ar. Boaz goes up to the town gate, town square, the town gate where business was conducted. Vayeshev sham v'ine hagoel over asher diber Boaz vayomer surah shva po ploni almoni vayasar vayeshev. And so Boaz went to the gate, and there was the Redeemer, the person who was the closest relative to the family, and therefore had the first dibs of redeeming the land and marrying Ruth. And so Boaz says, "Come over here." Ploni Almoni is like kind of like John Doe. It's a nameless name of a person. Come here, so and so. And they sat down together. Vayikach hasaran hashim miziknei ha'ir vayomer shvu po vayeshevu. And Boaz took 10 elders of the city and said, "Please sit down here. We are public. This is something that needs to be known." And therefore, we have a whole group. It doesn't 10 men in addition to the two of them, presumably a total of 12. Vayomer legoel chelkat hasadeh asher lachinu lachimelech machra Naomi hashava mistei Moab. And he said to the Redeemer, Naomi returned from the country of Moab, and she has to sell the piece of land which belonged to our relative, to Elimelech. Va'ani amarti egle oznecha lemor K'nei neged hayoshvim v'neged ziknei ami im tigal ge'al v'im lo yigal hagida li ve'eda ki ein zulatcha legol v'anochi acharecha v'yomer anochi egal. And I thought I should come to you and tell you about it. And I should, acquire it in the presence of those sitting here. We have a group of people, the elders, right? So we can see what's going on. Naomi needs to sell this land. So are you going to redeem it? Are you going to do it? But if not, tell me. Because if there is no one to redeem, you're number one and I'm number two. I come after you and we'll see what happens. And I'm willing to redeem it, the man said. Vayomer Boaz biyom knotcha sadeh miyad Naomi umeit Ruth hamovia eshet hamet kaniti lakim shem hamet anachlato. And Boaz says, when you acquire the property, when you buy it, so also you're going to get Ruth the Moabite. She comes along with it because she's the wife of the deceased. She's the wife of his son, of Machlon. And so, what do we know the rule is? Lahakim shem hamet al nachlato. This is the Levirate marriage. This is to keep the name alive. The name doesn't fall apart. The name doesn't leave from the family. And so when you buy the field, just know that she comes along with it. Vayomer hagoel lo uchal legali pen ashchita nachlati ga'al lecha ata et geulati ki lo uchal legol. But then he says, no. I can't redeem it for myself, lest that somehow messes up with my estate. So it seems at first he's ready to do it for the land, but when it comes along with this Moavit, when it comes along with this woman named Ruth, then he doesn't want to do it anymore. He doesn't sound great. Of course, the irony here is this is all about lahakim, shame, to keep the name established. And we know the name of Ruth. We know the name of Boaz. We know the name of Naomi. We know Elimelech. We know Machlon and Kilion. We know the names of all these characters in the book. The one person whose name we don't know, and thus we speculate. Yesterday said perhaps his name is Tov, because it says Im Yigalcha Tov was his name Tov. Today it's Ploni Almoni. Was he the original Ploni Almoni? Was that what his name was? Ploni Almoni, and what it means is John Doe. It means somebody whose name is not mentioned. So this person refuses to keep the name of Machlon and Kilion, the name of Elimelech alive. And his name is the name that is forgotten. And so at first he's ready for the land, a real estate deal he's interested. But if it comes along with this Ruth, when that other part of it is mentioned, he's not allowed to do it. He refuses to do it. And therefore he renounces his rights. And of course it is for Boaz then to do it. And of course it takes us back. We discussed it after the class, I believe, yesterday. Maybe we discussed it during the class, I don't remember, or during the recorded part of the class, a question going back to Onan, who refuses to spill. He spills his seed out because he does not want the child with Tamar to be named after his brother Er. And so this unnamed person is following in that footstep, the footsteps of Onan, of not redeeming. And here, Boaz is, in a sense, the tikkun. Boaz is making up for the mistakes of the past, of willingness to bring in redeem the family, bring them back, keep those names alive, even if in some way the child is sort of not his. And we'll see sort of that's what happens at the end of the chapter. Continuing verse 7, V'zot lefanim b'Yisrael. And this is now a formal ruling in Israel. Al ha'geula v'al ha'tmura, in cases of redemptions and exchanges. L'kayem kol davar. And so how is this, right? How are we going to know that this is the case? Shalaf ish na'alo v'natan l're'eu. So what do you have to do? You have to take off your shoe and you have to give it to another. Okay? V'zot ha'tu'uda b'Yisrael. And this was the practice in Israel, right? The idea being that the person who the person I'm not willing, right? We know the laws in Yibum, when somebody does a chalitza, they refuse to marry their brother's widow, childless widow. He doesn't have any children. Then you spit in the shoe because he refuses to step into the place of his brother. She spits in the shoe, and so the shoe, they're not stepping into your place. They're not stepping into his sandal, is what's mentioned here in sort of a proto way. It's not with all the details of how it would become done later on, of course, according to Jewish law. And continuing verse 8, and so the Redeemer said to Boaz, acquire for yourself, and he drew off his sandal. So you are witnesses today. Ki kaniti et kol asher leElimelech, that kol asher lechilyon umachlon miyad Naomi. You are witness today that I am buying it all. I'm acquiring everything that belonged to Naomi and Elimelech. I don't know if he had to pay off a debt. It's not clear exactly what he had to pay and what he had to do, but it's clear that that's what he had to do. And he says, Vigam, in verse 10, et ruha movia, eish et machlon kaniti li isha, lakim shem amet al nachlatov, lo yichret shem amet me'im echav, misha'ar mikomo edim atem hayom. And I also am acquiring Ruth, the Moabite, who was the wife of Machlon, as my new wife, to keep the name of the deceased upon his estate so that it will not disappear from amongst his family and from the gate of his home in town. Today, you are the witnesses of what is going on. I don't want to hear later on that, I dug in the land and I found an oil deposit or a diamond mine, and this wasn't, and the Ploni Almoni is going to come back here. Everybody knows the sale has happened. It's done with. It's complete. And paying off whatever debt or whatever it is, not clear, that he has to do in order to acquire the land, and with it, the right to marry Ruth Moavia. Continuing verse 11, Vayomru kolam asher ba'ashar v'azkenim edim. Yitain Adonai et ha'isha bat beitecha kerachel uchileya asher banu shtem et beit Yisrael v'asachayil befratu krashem bebeit lechem. And they say, we are witnesses, we testify, and this woman who has come to your house should be like Rachel and Leah. The two of them together built the house of Israel, and let her prosper in Ephrata and perpetuate your name here in Beit Lechem. It's sort of a strange bracha. Why are they here talking about Rachel and Leah and the two of them together? It seems well beyond sort of this small little story. In this book, you think about King David, and David is the uniter of the kingdom. All 12 of the tribes come under his reign, under the reign of Shlomo. If there weren't for mistakes by Shlomo, then it would have remained that way. That's the way it's ultimately supposed to be. So built into this this story is this sort of, this vision, almost this larger vision, Beitcha kebeit Rachel v'Leah, uniting what was then a kingdom that was very, very much divided into tribes as opposed to being really one united kingdom. In verse 12, V'hi beitcha k'veit Peretz, asher yalda Tamar liYuda min hazera asher yitein Adonai l'chol min ha'arazot, and your house should be like the house of Peretz, who Tamar bore to Judah through the offspring which the Lord will give you by this young woman, right? You should have many descendants. V'yikach Boaz et Ruth v'tihi li lo li'isha, v'yavo elev, v'yitein Adonai la herayon v'teled bein. And so Boaz officially marries her, they consummate the marriage, and she becomes pregnant. God allows her to become pregnant. She conceives and she bears a son. Vatomar Nashim al Naomi, Baruch Adonai asher lo ishbit lach goel hayom vayikra vayikare shmo b'Yisrael. And the women go to Naomi and they say, blessed be God who has not withheld a redeemer from you today. May his name be perpetuated in Israel. May his name be perpetuated. May it continue to go that way. V'haya lach l'meishiv nefesh u'lechakel et sevatech ki chalatech asher ahevatech Yeladatu asher hi tova lach mishiv'a vanim, and he will renew your life and sustain your old age, because he's born of your daughter-in-law who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons. And you think about that, right? This is during the time of the Shoftim. We have a similar phrase used in a worse way, in a less effective way, by is it Elimelech also, the husband of Chana, who, when she can't have children and she's so sad, he says, I'm better than you, than children. I love you so much. I give you everything. And here, right, they're saying you have hope. You have a future. Your daughter-in-law loves you so much. And look where you've gone. And you've lost your children, but now look, you're going to have this grandchild. And look, and this is what I was referring to before with Boaz. Naomi takes the child and holds it in her bosom, and she becomes its foster mother, because it's the child of Machlon, it's the child of her son. That's whose name, that's whose sort of legacy, and that's who he sort of is the continuation of, even though obviously genetically he's not the child of Machlon. Genetically, he's the child of Boaz and Ruth, of course. But it is effectively showing the effectiveness and the seriousness of the idea of Yibum and how it is. And what do the neighbors say? A son is born to Naomi. Shmo Oved, hu avi Yishai, avi David. And who is this child? This child is Oved, who has a child named Jesse, Yishai, who has a child named David. And if you wanted to know, and even if you didn't want to know, we're going to go back and we're going to tell the whole history of the family. V'elet toldo, we're in verse 18. Peretz holidet Chetzron. Peretz was one of the sons of Yehuda, as mentioned in earlier pasuk. V'Chetzron holidet Ram, v'Ram holidet Aminadav. V'Aminadav holidet Nachshon, right? Nachshon ben Aminadav, it's almost Pesach, famous midrash about him at Kriyat Yamsuf. V'Nachshon holidet Salma. The Salmon holidet Boaz. Salma and Salmon are the same person, it's just conjugated differently. Uvoaz holidet Oved. The Oved holidet Yishai. The Yishai holid et David. So here we don't have Yehuda, but it's obvious, reader of the Torah, that Yehuda is the father of Peretz. And here we have the genealogy of King David leading all the way back to the original tribes, sons of Israel, to Peretz, one of the twins born to Yehuda and Tamar. And the book, of course, is read on Shavuot. Some say it's read on Shavuot because it happens in the season when we're beginning to pick and harvest, which is sort of the Shavuot time, is when that starts. It's, of course, a story of a convert. And on Shavuot, we all stood at Har Sinai and sort of were converted, as it were, to Jewish life. And it's also a story on Shavuot, others say, because of the phrase Derech Eretz Kodma LeTorah, the Derech Eretz, which could mean the way of the world, but more of decency, common using and decency and goodness come before Torah. So before we accept the Torah at Har Sinai every year and sort of re-accept it, as it were, every year at Shavuot, when we remember the revelation at Sinai, we have to remember this chesed, we have to remember this kindness, this goodness, this decency, and the kindness of this in this book of, first, of course, Ruth. Second, we saw Boaz. Third, we saw Naomi. And fourth, with that, is also God. And we see that transformation. One of the important parts of this book is that transformation of Naomi when she recognizes and said, God made my life bitter. And then she recognizes through the kindness of Boaz that God made my life good again by having Ruth go to gather specifically in his field. And so it's a book that's kulo chesed. It's appropriate for all times. And again, just mention what I had mentioned yesterday, that in the end, the most important message, if this book is written to an extent to show the yichus of David, the lineage of David, what it's teaching us is the way to be king of Israel is not through fratricide, is not through any killing of the king and killing of family members and killing of siblings. What is it through? It's through kindness. The throne is given to David, we're told, because of the kindness of his ancestors in this lovely short book.